I sat across from Gregory Walsh in the conference room, watching him slide a folder toward me with those cold gray eyes. My heart pounded as he spoke the words that would shatter everything I had built. "My son will take over your duties," he said flatly. 8 years of turning his failing divisions around, of building systems that saved millions, of proving myself every single day. None of it mattered. Brandon Walsh, his incompetent 31-year-old son, would erase my legacy. I reached into my bag, pulled out my access card and office keys, and slid them across the mahogany table. I walked out without saying a word. The drive home felt surreal. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The afternoon sun blinded me as I merged onto the highway, but I barely noticed. My mind kept replaying Gregory's expression, that flat, emotionless delivery, as if he were discussing quarterly reports instead of destroying my career. I had given Walsh Industries everything. When I started there at 29, fresh from my MBA and hungry to prove myself, the company was bleeding money. The Midwestern distribution center was a disaster, losing hundreds of thousands every quarter. I spent 6 months restructuring the entire operation, renegotiating contracts, implementing new inventory systems. I saved 200 jobs. People sent me thank you cards. One woman told me I saved her family from losing their home. Then there was the Taiwan supplier contract. The previous VP had bungled the relationship so badly that our main manufacturer threatened to terminate their agreement. I flew to Taipei 4 times in 3 months, learned basic Mandarin phrases, took time to understand their culture and business practices. I negotiated a deal that saved Walsh Industries $3 million annually. Gregory himself had called it brilliant. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car for 20 minutes, staring at my little 2-bedroom house. I had bought it 5 years ago, so proud to be a homeowner at 32. Now it felt like a monument to wasted effort. Inside, I poured a glass of water with shaking hands and called Diana. She answered on the second ring. "How did the meeting go?" she asked. Diana had been my college roommate, and now she worked as a marketing director at a tech firm across town. She was one of the few people who understood the corporate battlefield. "He fired me," I said, and my voice cracked. "Gregory just brought me in and told me Brandon is taking over. That's it. 8 years, Diana. 8 years. That son of a—" Diana stopped herself. "Erica, you need to fight this. You have grounds for wrongful termination, maybe age discrimination. You're only 37, but you know how these old boys clubs work." "I don't know," I whispered. "I'm so tired." "Get a lawyer," Diana insisted. "Tonight. Start documenting everything." After we hung up, I dug out my employment contract from the filing cabinet. Standard language, nothing unusual. Confidentiality agreements, non-compete clause for 1 year, at-will employment. I had signed it 8 years ago without much thought. Back then, I was just grateful for the opportunity. That evening, I made a list of everything I had accomplished. 12 employees I had personally mentored who went on to get promotions. The rescue of the Midwestern Distribution Center, the Taiwan contract, 3 failing divisions I had turned profitable, new quality control systems that reduced defects by 42%, an efficiency program that cut operating costs by nearly $4 million over 2 years. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Gregory's cold stare. The next morning, I contacted Patricia Brennan, an employment attorney, whose name I found through a legal directory. Her office agreed to see me that afternoon. Patricia was in her 50s, with sharp features and an even sharper mind. She listened to my story, took notes, and reviewed my contract. "You definitely have grounds for discussion," she said. "Wrongful termination, possibly age discrimination if we can establish a pattern. The problem is proving it." "Did Gregory give you any reason in writing?" "No," I admitted. "It was all verbal. He just said Brandon would take over. That makes it harder, but not impossible. Let me do some research and I'll get back to you in a few days." I thanked her and left. As I walked to my car, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" Miss Erica Thompson? A woman's voice, professional and cold. Yes? This is Susan Garrett, executive assistant to Gregory Walsh. Mr. Walsh asked me to inform you that Walsh Industries is aware you downloaded confidential files to an external drive on your last day. We have login records. If you pursue any legal action against the company, we will be forced to report this theft of proprietary information to the appropriate authorities. My blood went cold. I never downloaded anything. I don't even own an external drive. Our IT department has evidence otherwise. I'm simply conveying Mr. Walsh's message. Have a good day. She hung up. I stood in the parking lot, trembling. They were framing me. Gregory Walsh was framing me for theft to keep me from fighting back. 3 days after my termination, I sat in Patricia's office again, but this time the meeting felt entirely different. We were no longer discussing offense. We were playing defense. Patricia spread several documents across her desk. A cease and desist letter from Walsh Industries Corporate Counsel. A detailed accusation claiming I had violated my non-disclosure agreement and stolen trade secrets. Login records allegedly showing file downloads from my computer on my last afternoon. This is fabricated, I said, my voice hollow. I was in shock that day. I cleaned out my desk, took my personal photos and a coffee mug, and left. I never accessed any files. I believe you, Patricia said carefully, but proving it will be difficult and expensive. They have what appears to be digital evidence. We would need our own IT forensics expert to examine their systems, and Walsh Industries won't voluntarily allow that. We'd have to get a court order, which means filing a lawsuit, which means discovery, depositions, months of legal wrangling. How much would that cost? Patricia hesitated. Conservatively? $30,000 to $40,000? Maybe more. I felt sick. My severance had been standard, just 2 weeks' pay. They had processed it before starting these accusations, probably to avoid any appearance of withholding it. I had some savings, maybe $25,000, but that was supposed to be my emergency fund. What if I just let it go? I asked quietly. What if I don't fight? Then Gregory Walsh wins, Patricia said bluntly. And you walk away with nothing but a destroyed reputation. Over the next few days, I reached out to former colleagues at Walsh Industries, hoping someone would back me up or at least confirm my character. I sent careful emails and made phone calls. Most people didn't respond. The ones who did were apologetic but clear. They couldn't get involved. They had mortgages, kids in college, careers to protect. Only one person agreed to meet me. Marcus Hughes had worked under me for 5 years in the logistics division. He was 43, competent and loyal. We met at a coffee shop 3 towns over, somewhere we wouldn't be recognized. Marcus looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder. This is crazy, Erica. What they're doing to you is completely wrong. Tell me what's happening there, I said. He leaned in close. Brandon is a disaster. He doesn't understand the first thing about operations. Last week, he changed the shipping protocols you established without consulting anyone. We lost a major delivery deadline. The client was furious. And the Taiwan contract? He got on a video call with them and was completely disrespectful. Didn't understand their business culture at all. They're threatening to terminate. What about Gregory? He's propping Brandon up, covering for his mistakes, making excuses to the board. But people inside know the truth. Brandon got his VP title 3 years ago, but you did all the actual work. Everyone knew that. Now he's in over his head and Gregory refuses to admit it. Can anyone go on record about this? I asked. Marcus shook his head. People are scared. Gregory has made it clear that anyone who talks to you will be fired. And he has connections everywhere in this industry, Erica. He's been in manufacturing for 50 years. He knows everyone. We talked for another 30 minutes, and then Marcus left, glancing around nervously as he walked to his car. I spent the next week applying for jobs. 3 positions at competing firms. all well suited to my experience. Initial phone screenings went well. One hiring manager even said I was their top candidate. Then, one by one, they all withdrew. The first company sent a polite email saying they had decided to go in a different direction. The second simply stopped returning my calls. The third was honest enough to tell me the truth. They had received concerning information about me during their background check. I called Patricia immediately. "He's blacklisting me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Gregory is telling other companies I'm under investigation for corporate espionage. He's destroying my reputation across the entire industry." Patricia was silent for a moment. "That could actually help us. If we can prove he's defaming you to potential employers, that's another cause of action. But again, it requires proof, documentation, witnesses willing to testify, which I don't have," I said bitterly. "Not yet," Patricia replied. "But keep trying. Document every rejection. Save every email." I hung up and stared at my laptop screen. My LinkedIn profile suddenly felt like a scarlet letter. 8 years of accomplishments, reduced to whispers and accusations. 2 weeks after my termination, reality set in with brutal force. My savings account, once a source of pride, was shrinking fast. Patricia's retainer had taken $5,000, mortgage payment, car payment, utilities, groceries, insurance. The numbers didn't lie. Without income, I had maybe 3 months before serious trouble. My severance had been standard, just 2 weeks' pay, calculated before they started the accusations. Presumably, they wanted to avoid any appearance of withholding owed wages. Small comfort when I was staring at financial collapse. I applied outside my industry. Marketing positions, project management roles, anything that matched my skill set. But I was overqualified for most positions, and hiring managers could sense something was wrong. Why would a former VP of operations at a major manufacturing firm want an entry-level project coordinator job? The unspoken question hung in every interview. My parents called from Arizona. They had retired there 5 years ago, living on Social Security and modest savings. My mother's voice was gentle, but worried. "Sweetheart, your father and I have been talking. We can help with your mortgage payment this month if you need it." "Mom?" "No," I said quickly. "You're on a fixed income. I'll figure this out." "You've always been so independent," she said softly. "But sometimes it's okay to ask for help." "I know, but I'm not there yet. I promise." After we hung up, I cried for the first time since being fired. Not the angry tears of betrayal, but the exhausted tears of someone watching everything fall apart. My younger brother Tyler called the next day. He was 33, a high school teacher in Colorado, and we had always been close, but his tone was strange, careful. "Erica, I heard something," he began. "A friend of mine who works in manufacturing said there are rumors about you, that you stole information from your company." The question felt like a knife. "It's not true, Tyler. I'm being framed." "Okay," he said, but I could hear the doubt. "I just wanted to ask." We talked for a few more minutes, but the conversation felt strained. After we hung up, I realized the accusations had spread beyond the industry. People were talking. My reputation was being destroyed in real time. Diana remained my anchor. She came over twice that week, bringing groceries and refusing to let me spiral completely. "You're going to get through this," she insisted, sitting on my couch while I picked at leftover Chinese food. "Gregory Walsh is a bully, but bullies eventually lose, do they?" I asked bitterly. "Because, from where I'm sitting, he's winning." The stress manifested physically. I couldn't sleep more than 3 or 4 hours a night. My appetite vanished. I lost 7 pounds in 2 weeks. My doctor, during a routine checkup I almost canceled, asked if I was okay. "Just work stress," I lied. She looked at me skeptically but didn't push. I discovered Walsh Industries had posted a job listing for VP of Operations. They were replacing me officially, probably interviewing candidates while pretending I had left voluntarily. The job description mentioned all the systems I had built, the divisions I had rescued, but with no acknowledgement of my work. Patricia delivered more bad news during our weekly call. Fighting the false accusations will cost at least $50,000 in legal fees, possibly more depending on how aggressive Walsh Industries gets. And even if you win, it could take 2 years. Are you prepared for that timeline? I don't have $50,000, I said flatly. I know. I'm being honest about the reality. That afternoon, a courier delivered a certified letter. I signed for it with shaking hands. Inside was a lawsuit from Walsh Industries law firm. They were suing me for $1.5 million in damages from alleged stolen proprietary information. The lawsuit claimed my theft had caused operational disruptions and lost contracts. It was completely fabricated, but the legal language made it sound convincing. System failures, client complaints, revenue loss, all blamed on my alleged actions. I called Patricia immediately, my voice barely above a whisper. They're suing me for $1.5 million. Patricia swore softly. This is an intimidation tactic. They want you terrified, broke, and willing to disappear quietly. If you fight, they'll bury you in legal costs, even if you eventually win. So what do I do? That's your decision, Erica. But I need you to understand. Fighting this could destroy you financially, even if you're completely innocent. Sometimes the system isn't fair. I sat on my kitchen floor after that call and broke down completely. 8 years of work, of dedication, of building something meaningful, reduced to this. Bankruptcy, humiliation, ruin. For the first time, I understood how people gave up, how they just stopped fighting. 4 weeks after my termination, I was barely recognizable to myself. Depression settled over me like a heavy blanket, making every small task feel impossible. Getting out of bed required effort. Showering felt pointless. The walls of my little house closed in. I was behind on my mortgage payment for the first time in 5 years. The bank sent a polite but firm notice. I stared at it for 3 days before filing it away with the other documents of my unraveling life. I needed income, any income. Pride meant nothing anymore. I took a part-time job at a retail clothing store in a mall 20 minutes away, hoping I wouldn't run into anyone I knew. The pay was $12 an hour. I had been making 6 figures as VP of operations. The manager who hired me, a woman in her 20s named Amanda, was pleasant enough. She showed me how to fold shirts and organize inventory. I smiled and nodded, feeling utterly hollow. On my 3rd shift, a former colleague from Walsh Industries walked into the store. Her name was Helen, and she had worked in finance. We made eye contact. Her expression shifted from recognition to pity to embarrassment. She turned around and left without buying anything. I stood there, holding a stack of sweaters, wanting to disappear. Social media became torture. LinkedIn showed me updates from Walsh Industries. Brandon Walsh was being featured in industry publications, praised for innovative leadership and operational excellence. Every innovation mentioned was something I had built. The supply chain optimization, the quality control systems, the efficiency programs. He was taking credit for my work, and the industry was celebrating him. One article called him a rising star in manufacturing. My hand shook as I read it. Marcus texted me secretly, using a burner phone he had bought specifically to stay in contact. His messages were brief but devastating. Taiwan contract fell through. Brandon insulted them again. Gregory is covering it up. 2 major clients left. Everyone is worried. They're hiding the losses from the board. It's bad. But publicly, Gregory propped up Brandon's image, spinning every failure as a temporary setback, every disaster as a learning opportunity. I considered giving up. Patricia had mentioned settlement as an option. Walsh Industries might agree to drop the lawsuit if I signed away all my rights, promised never to work in the industry again, accepted permanent silence. It would mean surrender, complete and total defeat. But at least the nightmare would end. Diana found me one afternoon, 3 days after I had stopped answering her calls. She used the spare key I had given her years ago and let herself in. The house was a mess, dishes piled in the sink, mail scattered everywhere. I was on the couch in the same clothes I had worn for 2 days. "Erica, get up," Diana said firmly. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered. "Yes, you can. And you will. But first, you're going to take a shower. Then we're going to clean this house. Then you're going to see a therapist." "I don't need therapy." "You absolutely do," Diana said. "This isn't just about the job anymore. This is about your mental health. You're drowning, and I'm not going to let you drown." She practically dragged me to the shower, waited while I cleaned up, and then helped me tidy the house. That evening, she made me promise to see a therapist. Dr. Rachel Morrison was in her 40s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach. Our first session was difficult. I cried through most of it, explaining everything that had happened. "You've experienced a significant trauma," Dr. Morrison said gently. "Betrayal, injustice, systematic attacks on your reputation and livelihood. Your response is completely normal. But we need to work on coping strategies so you don't lose yourself in this." Over the next 2 weeks, I saw her twice a week. Slowly, painfully, I began processing what had happened. The anger, the grief, the sense of powerlessness. "Gregory Walsh took something from you," Dr. Morrison said during one session. "But he can't take who you are. Your competence, your intelligence, your integrity, those belong to you." It helped. Not completely. Not enough to fix everything, but enough to keep going. 5 weeks after my termination, during one of my lowest moments, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello? Erica Thompson?" A male voice. Older, nervous. "Yes? This is Lawrence Henderson. I'm the corporate attorney at Walsh Industries. We've never met directly, but I've been with the company for 23 years. I sat up straight. "Why are you calling me?" "I need to meet with you. In person. Off the record. There's something you need to know." "Is this some kind of trick?" "No trick. I give you my word. But I can't discuss this on the phone, and I need you to bring your attorney." "Why should I trust you?" Lawrence hesitated. "Because I have a conscience, and I can't live with what's happening. Will you meet me?" I called Patricia immediately. She was skeptical but intrigued. "It could be a trap," she warned. "But it could also be a break. I'll go with you. We'll meet in a public place, and we'll record everything." 2 days later, Patricia and I sat in a coffee shop in a town 40 minutes away, far from anyone who might recognize us. Lawrence Henderson walked in exactly on time. He was in his 60s, with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked like a man carrying a heavy burden. He sat down across from us, ordered nothing, and got straight to the point. Lawrence Henderson pulled a folder from his briefcase with hands that trembled slightly. He glanced around the coffee shop one more time, as if expecting Gregory Walsh to materialize from the shadows. "What I'm about to tell you could cost me my career," he began. "If Gregory finds out we met, I'll be fired. Possibly sued. But I can't stay silent." Patricia leaned forward. "Mr. Henderson, why are you doing this?" "Because I've watched Walsh Industries for over 2 decades, and what's happening to Miss Thompson is wrong. Morally wrong. Legally wrong." He opened the folder. "I was asked to review Erica's employment contract for the lawsuit. Gregory wanted me to find anything that could strengthen their case against her." "And did you?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "No. But I found something else. Something Gregory either forgot about or never fully understood." Lawrence pulled out a document and laid it on the table. "My original employment contract from 8 years ago." He pointed to a section on page 7, highlighted in yellow. Patricia picked it up and began reading. Her eyes widened. "This is," she started, then read it again more carefully. "What?" I asked. "What is it?" Lawrence explained. "When you were hired 8 years ago, Walsh Industries was in serious financial trouble. They couldn't afford a competitive salary for someone with your qualifications. The hiring manager at the time, a man named Douglas Freeman who has since retired, included a special compensation clause to make the offer more attractive. He pointed to the highlighted section. This clause states that if you are terminated without cause before completing 10 years of service, you're entitled to substantial compensation. Plus, you receive a percentage of net profits from any operational systems you personally designed and implemented during your tenure. My heart began to race. I remember signing this, but it seemed theoretical, like something that would never actually happen. It's happening now, Lawrence said. I've done preliminary calculations based on the systems you built, the supply chain optimization, the quality control protocols, the efficiency programs. These systems are still generating significant value for Walsh Industries. Patricia was reading intensely, her legal mind processing every word. What are the numbers? Lawrence took a deep breath. Based on the termination clause alone, Erica is owed approximately $3.2 million. The profit-sharing component from her systems could generate another $2 million over the next 5 years. This clause is ironclad. It was reviewed by external counsel at the time and properly executed. I felt dizzy. That can't be right. It is right, Lawrence insisted. Douglas Freeman was a smart negotiator. He knew Walsh Industries couldn't match what other companies were offering you in salary, so he built in this protection. If the company kept you for 10 years, the clause would expire and everyone would be happy. If they terminated you early, you'd be compensated for your contributions. Patricia was already taking notes. Does Gregory know about this clause? I don't think so. Douglas retired 6 years ago. The original negotiations happened before Gregory's attention. He signed off on your hiring, but I doubt he read every detail of the contract. And over the years, it was forgotten. Until now. Have you told anyone at Walsh Industries about this? Patricia asked. Lawrence shook his head. I was instructed to find ways to strengthen the case against Erica, not provide her with legal ammunition. If I mention this clause, Gregory will know I'm the source. I'll be fired immediately, possibly sued for breach of loyalty. Then why are you here? I asked. He met my eyes. Because I've spent 23 years watching Gregory build an empire. I've defended the company through tough times. But what he's doing to you is indefensible. The theft accusations are completely fabricated. I know that because I reviewed the IT logs myself. The file downloads were done after you left the building, using admin credentials that Brandon Walsh obtained. Brandon framed me? I whispered. Brandon did it with Gregory's knowledge and approval, Lawrence confirmed. They needed a reason to keep you quiet, to scare you from pursuing any legal action, so they manufactured evidence. Patricia was already thinking ahead. If we invoke this clause, Walsh Industries will fight it viciously. They will, Lawrence agreed. And here's what you need to understand. If Erica pursues this, Gregory will escalate everything. The criminal accusations, the civil lawsuit, the character assassination. He's vindictive enough to burn the company down rather than admit he's wrong. But the clause is legal, Patricia said. Enforceable. Absolutely. But enforcing it means going to war. Lawrence slid a copy of the contract across the table to Patricia. This is for you. I'll deny this meeting ever happened if anyone asks. I can't testify. I can't help you in court. All I can do is give you this information and hope you use it well. He stood up, preparing to leave. One more thing. Gregory is hiding significant financial problems. Brandon's mismanagement has caused serious damage. The Taiwan contract fell through. 2 major clients left. The company is bleeding money, and Gregory is covering it up from the board of directors. If this gets out, Walsh Industries could face serious consequences. Lawrence walked out of the coffee shop without another word. Patricia and I sat in silence for several minutes, staring at the contract. This changes everything, Patricia finally said. But he's right, I replied. If I invoke this clause, Gregory will destroy me. He'll push for criminal charges. He has the resources to drag this out for years. I could win legally and still lose everything else. Patricia nodded slowly. That's the risk. You have to decide. Do you want justice or do you want peace? We drove back in separate cars. I spent the entire drive thinking about that question. That night I couldn't sleep. I reread the clause a dozen times. $3.2 million, plus profit sharing, plus the vindication of being right. But the cost, the risk, the potential for everything to get worse. The next morning, Marcus sent another text. Gregory is getting more aggressive. He's threatening anyone he thinks might talk to you. People are terrified. I looked at that message for a long time. Then I called Patricia. I want to invoke the clause, I said. I want to fight. Are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. I'm sure. If I don't fight, Gregory wins. And I can't live with that. All right, Patricia said. Let's go to war. She filed a formal claim with Walsh Industries 3 days later, demanding enforcement of the compensation clause and profit-sharing agreement. The response was immediate and nuclear. Gregory Walsh called me personally 6 hours after Patricia filed the claim. It was the first time I had spoken to him since he fired me. His voice was cold with rage. "You stupid girl," he said. "You have no idea what you've just done." "I'm enforcing a legal contract," I replied, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "You think that clause means anything? I'll bury you. I'll make sure you're charged with corporate espionage. I'll sue you for everything you have and everything you'll ever have. You'll spend the rest of your life paying lawyers and living in poverty." "Do what you have to do," I said. "I'm not backing down." "Then you're a fool." He hung up. Diana called me that evening, worried. "Are you okay? This is really happening?" "It's really happening," I confirmed. "I'm proud of you," she said quietly. "Terrified for you, but proud." Within 24 hours, Gregory followed through on his threats with devastating precision. His attorneys filed a formal request with the district attorney's office, demanding criminal charges for corporate espionage. They presented the fabricated evidence of file downloads, login records, and claims of stolen trade secrets. They also leaked to the media, not explicitly, but through carefully worded press releases and strategic conversations. Local business reporters picked up the story. A former executive at Walsh Industries was under investigation for theft of proprietary information. My name wasn't mentioned initially, but anyone in the industry could figure it out. Social media lit up with speculation. Comments ranged from supportive to vicious. She must have done something wrong. Walsh Industries wouldn't pursue this without evidence. Another entitled executive thinking the rules don't apply. I received hate messages on LinkedIn and Facebook. Strangers calling me a thief, a liar, a criminal. I deleted my social media accounts. My parents called, frightened. They had seen the news coverage. "Sweetheart, what's happening?" my mother asked, her voice shaking. I explained as calmly as I could. The false accusations, the forgotten clause in my contract, the decision to fight. "We believe you," my father said firmly. "Whatever you need, we're here." Tyler called too, and this time his tone was completely different. "I'm sorry I doubted you before. I should have known better. Tell me how I can help." "Just being on my side helps," I said, my voice breaking. The next week was a blur of meetings with Patricia, preparing documents, bracing for the next attack. The retail job became impossible to maintain. I called Amanda and quit. She was understanding, but clearly relieved. Having an employee under investigation for corporate espionage was probably bad for business. My savings were nearly gone. I had maybe $2,000 left. Patricia had agreed to work partially on contingency, betting on the contract clause, but there were still costs. Filing fees, expert witnesses, depositions. 6 weeks after my termination, Marcus did something extraordinary and terrifying. He called Patricia directly and asked to meet. When we sat down together, his hands were shaking. "I can't watch this anymore," he said. "What they're doing is evil. I have evidence." He had brought a laptop and external hard drive. Over the past weeks, he had been carefully documenting everything: internal emails, calendar records, encrypted backups of communications. "This proves everything," Marcus explained, pulling up files on his laptop. "Look at this email chain. Brandon to Gregory, 3 days after Erica was terminated. I've accessed her computer using admin credentials, downloaded the files you wanted. IT is logging them as if she did it before leaving. Patricia's eyes went wide. You have proof they framed her? Complete proof. Calendar records showing Brandon in the IT department after hours. Login records showing admin access to Erica's computer after she turned in her badge. It's all here. This is explosive, Patricia said. This proves conspiracy, fraud, criminal conduct. Marcus nodded. There's more. Internal financial documents showing the real state of Walsh Industries, the Taiwan contract failure, client losses, Brandon's mismanagement. Gregory has been lying to the board of directors for months. Why are you doing this? I asked. You're risking everything. Marcus looked at me steadily. Because you gave me my career. When I was stuck in a dead-end position, you promoted me, mentored me, believed in me. You're the best boss I ever had. And watching them destroy you while that incompetent Brandon takes credit for your work makes me sick. He handed Patricia the external hard drive. Everything is on here. Encrypted. The password is in this envelope. Use it however you need. Marcus, they'll know it came from you, I said. I know. He stood up. But some things are more important than job security, like integrity. The next day, Marcus was fired from Walsh Industries. Gregory's attorneys moved with terrifying speed. They accused Marcus of stealing confidential information and filed charges against him too. The message was clear. Anyone who helps Erica Thompson will be destroyed. I felt horrible. Marcus had sacrificed his job, his reputation, his livelihood to help me. His wife called me, crying, asking what would happen to them. I'll make this right, I promised. I swear I'll make this right. Patricia moved aggressively with Marcus's evidence. She filed an amended complaint against Walsh Industries, now including charges of fraud, defamation, conspiracy, and demanding enforcement of the contract clause. The evidence Marcus provided was devastating. Within 48 hours, Patricia received a call from the district attorney's office. After reviewing Marcus's evidence, they were dropping the criminal investigation into me. The file downloads had clearly been done after I left the building, using credentials I didn't have access to. The case against me collapsed. That was the first victory, small but significant. Walsh Industries' outside counsel reviewed the situation and delivered bad news to Gregory. They were going to lose. Badly. Not only would they have to pay the contract clause, but they now faced massive liability for fraud and defamation. Gregory, desperate and cornered, tried one final tactic. His attorney called Patricia with a settlement offer. $1.5 million. Full non-disclosure agreement. Everyone walks away. No admission of wrongdoing. It's less than half of what you're owed, Patricia told me. But it's immediate money. If we go to trial, you'll win more. But it could take another year. And trials are unpredictable. I thought about it for 2 days. The money would solve my immediate problems, pay off debts, secure my future, allow me to breathe. But it would also mean Gregory got away with everything. Brandon would keep his position, Marcus would be left out in the cold, the truth would be buried. Before I could decide, something unexpected happened. 3 members of Walsh Industries' board of directors requested a meeting with Patricia and me. Confidential. Urgent. We met at a law office downtown, neutral territory. The 3 board members were senior business people with impressive credentials. Helen Monroe, former CEO of a logistics company. David Patterson, a venture capitalist with decades of experience. Susan Cho, a retired CFO from a Fortune 500 company. Helen spoke first. Miss Thompson, we owe you an apology. The board has been investigating Gregory and Brandon independently. What we've discovered is deeply troubling, David continued. Gregory has been hiding massive financial losses. Brandon's mismanagement has cost the company millions. The Taiwan contract failure, client defections, operational disasters. Gregory has been falsifying reports to the board. Susan added, We've also learned about the fraudulent accusations against you. The evidence your colleague provided has been reviewed by our own investigators. You were completely innocent, and Gregory manufactured evidence to silence you. Why are you telling us this? Patricia asked carefully. Because we want to make this right, Helen said. The board is removing Gregory and Brandon from operational control of Walsh Industries. Gregory will remain as founder emeritus, a ceremonial position with no actual power. Brandon will be terminated from the company entirely. My heart began to race. David leaned forward. We want you to come back, Miss Thompson. As President and Chief Operating Officer, 5-year guaranteed contract, complete operational independence. We'll pay you everything owed under the contract clause. We'll issue a public statement clearing your name completely and explaining what happened. We'll also resolve the situation with Marcus Hughes and offer him his position back with a promotion. I was stunned. Why me? Because you're exactly what Walsh Industries needs, Susan said. Someone competent, ethical, and capable of rebuilding what's been destroyed. We've reviewed your track record. Your accomplishments speak for themselves. Patricia and I exchanged glances. I need to negotiate terms, I said. Over the next 3 days, Patricia negotiated fiercely on my behalf. I wanted more than just a job. I wanted protection, security, and acknowledgement. The final agreement included everything I demanded: an ownership stake in the company, a seat on the board of directors, personal written apologies from Gregory to me, Marcus, and issued publicly. Complete operational independence. The full $3.2 million from the contract clause, paid immediately. Plus the profit sharing from my systems. The board agreed to everything. Gregory Walsh was forced to step down from daily operations. The board issued a press release explaining that he would transition to a ceremonial founder emeritus role. Reading between the lines, everyone in the industry understood. Gregory had been removed. Brandon was terminated from Walsh Industries entirely. No severance beyond what was legally required. No public statement of support. He disappeared from the industry almost overnight. The board held a press conference introducing me as the new president and chief operating officer. They issued a statement explaining that previous accusations against me had been thoroughly investigated and found to be completely without merit. They apologized publicly for any harm caused to my reputation. Local business media covered my triumphant return. Industry contacts who had shunned me suddenly reached out with congratulations and apologies. I always knew there was more to the story. I'm so glad the truth came out. Walsh Industries is lucky to have you back. Marcus was reinstated and promoted to vice president of logistics. His family was secure again. He sent me a text. Thank you for not giving up. Lawrence Henderson, the attorney who showed me the contract clause, received a quiet bonus and my eternal gratitude. I made sure the board knew about his integrity, even though I couldn't reveal exactly how I knew. 3 months after returning to Walsh Industries, I stood in my new office on the executive floor, looking out at the city skyline. The same view Gregory once had. But everything felt different now. The turnaround had been intense, but exhilarating. My first week back, I met with the Taiwan suppliers personally. I apologized for Brandon's disrespect, reaffirmed our commitment to the partnership, and spent hours rebuilding the relationship. They appreciated the effort and agreed to resume the contract. The 2 major clients who had left were more difficult. One was willing to give us another chance after I personally presented a recovery plan. The other required months of rebuilding trust. But eventually they returned too. Inside Walsh Industries, morale had been shattered. Brandon's incompetence and Gregory's cover-ups had created fear and dysfunction. I spent countless hours meeting with employees, listening to concerns, making changes. I reinstated several initiatives that Brandon had foolishly canceled. I promoted talented people who had been overlooked. I fired 3 managers who had been complicit in the toxic culture. Marcus thrived in his new role as VP of Logistics. He told me once, during a late-night work session, I knew you'd come back. I never doubted it. I doubted it plenty, I admitted. The financial turnaround took longer, but the numbers started improving. Efficiency increased. Costs decreased. Client satisfaction improved. After 6 months, I presented the board with quarterly results that exceeded projections. Helen Monroe, the board member who had first approached me, nodded approvingly. This is exactly what we hoped for. My ownership stake meant I had real skin in the game. As Walsh Industries recovered financially, my net worth grew. The $3.2 million from the contract clause had paid off all my debts and provided genuine financial security. The profit sharing from my systems generated additional income. I paid Diana back for all the time she had supported me, emotionally and financially. She refused at first, but I insisted. You were there when no one else was. That means something. My relationship with my family strengthened. My parents visited, proud and relieved. Tyler came for a weekend, and we talked about resilience and integrity. You taught me something, he said. Sometimes the right thing is the hard thing. One afternoon, 6 months after my return, I encountered Gregory Walsh in the building. He still maintained a small office as founder emeritus, though he rarely used it. We hadn't spoken since my return. He looked older, diminished. The man who had once commanded rooms now seemed small. Erica, he said, his voice neutral. Gregory. He hesitated, then spoke quietly. I underestimated you. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. I nodded and walked past him. Brandon, I learned through industry contacts, had left manufacturing entirely. He had tried to find another position, but no company would hire him. The truth about his incompetence had spread. Last I heard, he was working for his father-in-law's small business, no longer pretending to be an executive. Patricia Brennan became my personal attorney and a good friend. She had taken a risk by working partially on contingency, and it had paid off for both of us. You're one of the good ones, she told me once. Clients who actually deserve to win are rare. Lawrence Henderson retired from Walsh Industries a year after my return. I made sure he left with a generous retirement package and the knowledge that his integrity had changed everything. He sent me a card. Sometimes doing the right thing is simply doing the right thing. The lessons I learned transformed how I approach leadership and life. I had always been competent, driven, focused on results. But the experience taught me something deeper. Injustice happens. Betrayal happens. Systems fail. People in power abuse that power. Sometimes doing the right thing means risking everything. But here's what I learned. Your integrity is yours. Your competence is yours. Your value is yours. No one can take those things unless you let them. Gregory tried to destroy me because he feared his incompetent son would be exposed. He was willing to lie, cheat, and commit fraud to protect his legacy. But in the end, competence wins. Truth wins. Not always quickly, not always easily, but eventually. I also learned about allies. Diana, who stood by me when I was broken. Marcus, who risked his career for justice. Lawrence, who followed his conscience despite the cost. Patricia, who believed in me and fought fiercely. These people made the difference between surrender and survival. Documents matter. Contracts matter. That forgotten clause on page 7 of my employment agreement changed everything. Douglas Freeman, the retired hiring manager who included it, probably never imagined it would be invoked. But he built protection into the system, and years later, that protection saved me. The experience made me a better leader. I understand fear now. I understand what it feels like to be powerless, to face institutional injustice, to be gaslit and accused falsely. That understanding shapes how I treat every person at Walsh Industries. I built new policies protecting whistleblowers. I created clear channels for reporting misconduct. I implemented transparency measures so employees would never again fear speaking truth to power. Walsh Industries is thriving now, not because of my brilliance, but because of the culture we're building together. A culture of competence, integrity, and mutual respect. The opposite of what Gregory created. Sometimes I think about that moment in the conference room when Gregory told me Brandon would take over my duties. The shock, the betrayal, the helplessness. If someone had told me then that I would emerge stronger, wealthier, more powerful than before, I wouldn't have believed them. But that's what happened. Not because I'm special, but because I refused to stay down. The fight was brutal. There were nights I wanted to give up, mornings I couldn't get out of bed, moments when surrendering seemed like the only rational choice. But I kept going. One day at a time. One decision at a time. One small act of courage building on the last. Now, standing in my office, looking at the city I love, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Peace. Not the peace of avoiding conflict, but the peace of knowing I fought for what was right and won. Gregory Walsh took my job, attacked my reputation, and tried to destroy my life. But he couldn't take what mattered most. He couldn't take my competence, my integrity, my determination to fight for justice. And in the end, that made all the difference. I want to ask you something. Have you ever faced a situation where standing up for yourself meant risking everything? Where the system seemed rigged against you and fighting back felt impossible? How did you find the courage to keep going? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one, and your experiences matter. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button. It helps more people find these stories. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories about resilience, justice, and triumph over adversity. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, someone who's facing their own battle against injustice, please share this video with them. Sometimes knowing someone else survived the fight makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you find the courage to fight for what's right, even when it's terrifying, especially when it's terrifying, because justice isn't guaranteed, but giving up guarantees defeat. Stay strong, stay true, and never let anyone take what's rightfully yours without a fight.